If you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, I'd rather speak from here and not take up the time to go to the podium because I approach this subject with a great sense of humility. Far be it from me from outside, although I understand there are a lot of people from Washington giving Israel advice. I'm not one of those, so far be it for me to put myself in the position of advising the Prime Minister of Israel on this very important subject for the country. What I could bring is perhaps some observations from the international and global experience that may be germane to the decision that will be made here in Israel very soon. And I'm sure, knowing Israel a little bit, there will be robust debate in this country about it. I was begin by endorsing the Prime Minister's comment that this is indeed a very long-term business that we're talking about, the oil and gas industry. It is also a business that have, in recent years, seen unprecedented volatility. And this is very important for people making public policy decisions to understand. We are entering the third year of the highest average oil prices the world had ever seen, in both real and nominal terms. And there are lots of reasons for that one can speculate on, mainly having to do with political uncertainties, not fundamental supply and demand. And the risk, therefore, in this industry of further volatility into the future is quite great. There is a good chance, that without Libya 2 years ago, Iranian sanctions a year ago, Syria today, that oil prices would be at a much lower level than they are today. What does that mean for the gas business? The gas business is fundamentally different from the oil business. Whereas oil responds to a global marketplace, gas has primarily and will, in the foreseeable future, I would say, in the short to medium term, remain a regional business, not a globally traded commodity, for reasons of transportation economics that we can get into if you like. With very high oil prices, we have seen very high gas prices in Europe because traditionally in Europe, gas had been traded at a price that's linked to oil prices for economic reasons that are actually no longer relevant. There is a good chance that in Europe, gas and oil prices will start to diverge over the next few years. I noticed that just a few months ago, Statoil signed a contract with the German utility, a 10-year contract that is based on spot gas prices and not linked to oil prices at all. So this is the industry that is undergoing transformation. With high oil prices, we need to look at the Eastern Mediterranean gas discovery in a global context that with high prices, first of all, you get conservation, which is a very good thing. The other thing you get is much greater incentive to explore in frontier areas where up until now the industry have passed over. So Eastern Mediterranean gas discovery should be seen in the context of other discoveries around the world in East Africa, Western Australia, and elsewhere. So it is not just in the Eastern Med that this is happening. The other factor that has come into play is what many of you may have heard about, the shale gas revolution in the United States. We are having a very robust debate in the United States as well about gas exports. A second gas export project to non-free trade countries, countries with whom the United States does not have free trade agreement, was just approved by the Department of Energy a month ago. There are about 20 export projects in the queue to be looked at for consideration for licensing on export. So this is not the only country where this is quite a controversial issue. We have to remember that less than 10 years ago, there were 40 gas projects in the United States asking for licenses from the government to import gas. So the world has flipped very quickly, and this is a sign of the volatility that I'm talking about, the gas markets have flipped completely in the last 10 years because of high prices driving innovation, driving technological improvement to find more gas, extract more gas from resources that we previously were not able to tap. So how does a government make a decision on what to do with the gas resources, balancing public interests, state interests, with legitimate private economic interests? After all, it was Gideon and his colleagues from Delek who took and their partners who took the financial risk, very high financial risk, and had the entrepreneurial exploration spirit to find the gas that was previously, I guess if Moses had come by sea rather than by land, maybe he would have discovered the gas a little bit earlier. But in any case, they took the initiative to find that gas. And of course, they can only continue to invest if there is some certainty of the conditions under which those investments can take place. Otherwise, the gas will be stranded. Economic value will deteriorate over time if a decision isn't made in a timely fashion in order to monetize the gas that's been discovered. When it comes to exports, the question is, I read very quickly the announcement yesterday in the English language paper, which is the only thing that I can read, which is no doubt incomplete. But if you look at exports, the question is now not only how much, but how and to where. One thing to bear in mind is that certain export projects, expensive export projects, has a very, very long gestation period. So one of the reasons investors want an early decision from government is in order to advance these projects as quickly as possible, but this is something that government need to recognize. A typical liquefied natural gas project, the gestation period of that is 15 to 20 years. That's the average, global average. We only last week, Chevron CEO talked at my institute and mentioned about a project in Western Australia called Gorgon that has reserves about 3 times of the number that the Prime Minister was talking about yesterday, consideration for Israel to export. And that discovery was made in 1981. And they hope to have the gas flowing for exports in 2015. So this is the period of time that we're talking about. The last point, Mr. Chairman, that I'd like to make, and a point that I made to the Director General for Energy and Water Resources 2 years ago when I visited Israel for the first time, is that whereas oil is like dating, gas business is like having a marriage. It really is a long-term business. I heard a story when I was visiting the former Soviet Union, one of the countries in the former Soviet Union, a month ago, which may bear remembering. In the former Soviet Union, I was told, you can choose your mother-in-law, but you cannot choose your neighbors, because your housing was assigned to you. And clearly, in order to capture both the greatest economic value and with the least transportation costs, thinking about exporting to the immediate neighborhood is something that both, not only for foreign policy or political reasons, for economic reasons as well, is something that should be taken seriously in terms of considering that as an option. Thank you very much.